Gavin Newsom appeared on a podcast called All That Smoke, which is hosted by two Black former NBA players. Gavin Newsom he was on a podcast a week ago, and I'm not sure what the podcast was. We covered it at the time, but he was asked about AIPAC and donations to AIPAC, and he was like, AIPAC rings a bell. I think it's so interesting that you're asking me about them. Real interesting because it's not something I ever think about. I don't have anything to do with AIPAC. Never think about them. What is it called? AIPAC? And it was so sad to watch. This is universe is worse. He's talking to, and let me just say one thing about Gavin Newsom before I show you this. Gavin Newsom grew up in a very prominent family. His father wasn't just a lawyer. He was the administrator of the Getty Trust, Getty oil fortune. The Getty family lives in San Francisco, or a big part of the family does. And Gavin Newsom's father administered the trust, oversaw the trust. He was around extremely rich people his whole life. And his family, maybe not billionaire wealthy, but was quite prominent and wealthy. Gavin Newsom's first business that he ever created, long before he got into politics, was funded by one of the Getty boys, or two of them, actually. There's an article in a local San Francisco paper from the 80s entitled The Young Rich of San Francisco, and there's a picture of Gavin Newsom there with two of the Getty heirs and another heir to a very large fortune. Here's Gavin Newsom adopting a completely fake way of speaking and a fake history and a fake personality and a fake background and a fake life, I guess to impress the podcast host, but also to build some sort of constituency that he thinks is going to fall for this. Listen to this.
So, it was also about paying the bills, man. And it was just like hustling. Mm-hmm. And so I was out there kind of raising myself, turning on the TV, started, just getting obsessed, sitting there with the Wonder Bread and 5 stacks of,
it's like the White Stack 5 story.
Come on. Kraft macaroni and cheese.
Bro. Are you talking about me?
Young YG.
YG,
but
man.
Every day in the backyard, just bouncing the basketball.
It goes on like that. I don't know what we cut out there, but it goes on like that. And, he basically is trying to make it seem like basketball saved him from the mean streets that he would have fallen into. He was just trying to make a living with his bread. And Gavin Newsom grew up wealthier than just about anybody that I knew at the time when he was growing up. And he doesn't have this background. He doesn't come from a working class background. He didn't grow up on the streets. He doesn't speak with a black accent. He doesn't speak street slang. We've all heard Gavin Newsom speak. Democrats. The problem with Democrats is that they know what they have to be. They know what they have to advocate. They know the policy positions that they could defend in order to win elections or at least become more popular. The problem is their donor base won't allow it. They're in bed with a certain corporatist, militarist donor base that will not allow them to become a party representing the things they need to represent if they're to get out of the cycle they're in of being an incredibly discredited, embarrassed, and cringe party. And one of the things they had been trying to do and still try to do is use identity politics and this cheap, empty, inconsequential discourse about how they have the first woman this and the first black this and they're pro this and and I think for a while they thought it was going to work, and maybe at the peak of wokeness they might have had some evidence that this was a popular way of thinking and speaking. The problem is that there's been a backlash against that. People don't care about that anymore. They don't want that. They're not fooled by it any longer. Black voters are not going to go vote for Democratic Party politicians because they talk a lot about racism. And gay voters or Muslim voters are not going to go and vote for Democratic Party politicians because they're talking about pro-trans or pro-gay or pro-Muslim. People want to know what you're going to do for their lives. Rightly so. You have to be more substantive than that. And I think this is the next evolution in Democrats trying to find some ground to change how people perceive them by adopting fake personalities. And from Forbes, it's dated October 26, 2025. I'm not sure if that's the right date or not, because that's It's yesterday. Maybe it is. We'll check on that. Inside Gavin Newsom's multi-million-dollar business empire. Quote, California Governor Gavin Newsom may be posting like Donald Trump on social media, but clearly the similarities don't end there. The rumored presidential hopeful was a businessman. And while he ran for office and built a brand of his own, Plumjack Group, which he started with investors, including oil heir and billionaire Gordon Getty, a family friend. Today, Plumjack is a power player in both Napa Valley's wine industry and San Francisco's social scene. Newsom was groomed for such success. His father, William, was a college friend of future Governor Jerry Brown, who appointed William to 2 judgeships. William Newsom was also employed by Getty as an administrator of the Getty Trusts. Compare Gavin Newsom's actual life, you could almost call him a Nepo baby, his actual wealth and connection to society that surrounded him all the time, to that fairy tale of a person and story that he adopted for those 2 black former NBA hosts who were basically shocked that he was even trying and kind of laughing with him, pretending to laugh along with him, but clearly laughing at him. Now, Zohran Mamdani has also done this, and you can distinguish it by saying Zohran Mamdani actually does have Indian heritage. He actually did live in Africa. But listen to Zohran Mamdani speaking. This is from 2016, and you'll hear a much different way of speaking.
Mamdani, thank you so much for joining us, and welcome to South Africa.
You're very welcome. It's a pleasure.
You were brought in as a music supervisor for Queen of Katwe. And as we know, music is almost the last string that brings the picture together. It tells the story. It's the tie-in of the whole story. How was that for you? I mean, being anywhere involved with the music will be a daunting task, but to be a supervisor at that, it must have been a mammoth task.
So I actually created a playlist for Mira, who also happens to be my mother. Yeah. Nepotism and hard work goes a long way.
All right, here's one more. This is from around the same time. This is him speaking on SCTV. Let's listen to this.
Yeah. So these 3 things, if you can address it.
Yeah, absolutely. Good, so I'll start from number 3. Electoral districts, they cut them in ways that don't make sense. And in our district, they cut out every public housing project. So Astoria houses, they cut it out. Woodside houses, they cut it out. Ravenswood, they cut it out. Queensbridge, they cut it out. They're all in Kathy Nolan's district. But I totally agree. Elected officials neglect people who live in public housing, and we need to change that.
So that's just 2020. That's 5 years ago. Now, like I said, when I was talking about OC, I could differentiate it and find it a little more defensible if there's something in their background that actually corresponds to that way of speaking. And he does have Indian heritage, which is, I believe, the accent he tried to adopt in that last interview, and the one before that sounded like a South African accent, but maybe I think it could be Ugandan as well, where he lived as well. And also, it's possible that as he lived longer in the United States, he lost his accent in English, or his accent became Americanized. That's possible as well. But this isn't 20 years ago. This is just a few years ago. And I think that, and you could call that code switching. Again, I don't like it. But when there's nothing to it, as is true for Gavin Newsom and AOC, and Kamala Harris did this as well during the campaign, we could show you a lot of different examples. I understand that Democrats are grappling around. I understand that they're trying to be more likable, to be more appealing, to be more interesting, to be more authentic. Don't adopt personalities that aren't your own. Don't adopt speaking styles that are fake to sound like other people whom you're trying to placate and please. It's disrespectful. And I think maybe some people fall for it and think, oh, well, that person seems like me. But I don't think most people want to hear that. I don't think that's how most people feel respected, is by having you imitate their style of speaking so that you can pretend that you're more like them and fool them. Unless Democrats figure out who they are, unless these people find comfort in their own skin, unless they say, this is who we are, this is what we believe in, no apology, we're not yielding from it, we're not going to accommodate it for or dilute it for political gain, people are going to continue to look at them as blank slates. And yes, they can keep gambling on the fact that maybe Donald Trump will overplay his hand. Maybe the economy will be so poor. Maybe in a 2026 midterm election, as traditionally happens, Trump supporters won't go to the polls because their party already is in power and they'll be able to count on things like that. I'm not saying they're never going to win another election. But if they want to win elections based on people actually being passionate about them, people supporting them, people thinking they're interesting, people being inspired by them, people who aren't Democrats deciding that they want to vote for a candidate, I mean, look at Obama. And Obama, that is who Obama was. He was a blank slate, but that was his personality, and he inspired a lot of people with it. And Democrats just don't have. I mean, Pete Buttigieg, they look like they all are just getting out of a board meeting. And I'm sorry, but AOC is no different. She tries to adopt a different vibe. I can see her not necessarily as a board of directors. She's not serious enough for that, but I can see her working as kind of a support function for a board of directors in a corporation. And then on Saturday night, she tries to let her hair down and, go out, goes her corporate self and start speaking like this. But this is uncomfortable to watch. It's not pleasant. It's not inspiring. And Democrats are going to continue to just, I think, go on a downward spiral if this is what their tactic is.
Thanks for watching this clip from System Update, our live show that airs every Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern exclusively on Rumble. You can catch the full nightly shows live or view the backlog of episodes for free on our Rumble page. You can also find full episodes the morning after they air across all major podcasting platforms, including Spotify and Apple. All the information you need is linked below. We hope to see you there.